10 years ago, my girlfriend abandoned me and our 5-year-old daughter. Now she wants her family back. 16 years ago, I met Lucy and I thought we were endgame. She was an amazing girl, intelligent, beautiful, fancy, funny, just the greatest girl I ever met. I felt so lucky when we started dating. And after a year into the relationship, we had a baby. I was living the dream, living with my girlfriend, raising our little daughter, and being a happy family. I loved Lucy so much, and after some years, we were finally getting married. Our daughter was the most excited one about the wedding as she was going to be the flower girl. Everything seemed to be perfect. Until, one day, when I was heading back home, a guy wanted to talk with me. At first I believed he may want to sell me something, until he mentioned Lucy. Politely, he asked me to talk in a private place. He then asked me to please stop everything about the wedding and step back, because he and Lucy wanted to be together. I didn't believe him, until he started to tell me a lot of details about her that would be impossible to know. I returned home as fast as I could. I didn't want this to be true. I told her about it, hoping it was all a mistake. But, no, it wasn't. The next hour she told me everything. She had been cheating on me for the last 2 years. She told me about how all the time she said she loved me, that she wanted us to be together and she loved our family, were all lies. How her new man was younger, stronger, handsome and better lover. She said that she didn't want to be tied to me. How she lost her freedom for being a mother and she didn't want to be a wife. She wanted her freedom back. The final stab was when she said she was happy that I finally knew, and now she was able to leave. I cried, begged, humiliated myself and got on my knees, asking for another chance. I wanted to try to fix our relationship, but she didn't want to. She wanted the thrill and excitement that this new guy made her feel. By the next day, she left us. I felt broken, humiliated, emasculated. But my daughter needed me. She was heartbroken, her mother left, and she believed it was her fault after she heard Lucy say she didn't want to be a mother anymore. She needed me, and I needed to be strong for her. Fortunately we had help. My family and Lucy's family supported us in any way possible. Her parents were so ashamed of their daughter's actions that they couldn't look me in the face without apologizing for everything she did. Fast forward, 10 years later. After lots of time and therapy, my daughter and I are living happily. She is the light of my life. A beautiful 15-year-old lady who I love. Our wounds are healed and we have a very good life. But then, she came back. When me and my daughter were getting back home, we found Lucy in front of our apartment, waiting for us, wanting to talk. I recognized her immediately. I would like to say that I did something cool, like ignoring her or asking her to leave. But no, I'm an idiot. My heart skipped a beat the moment I saw her. She still was beautiful as before, but somehow, she looked even better. Maybe the age made her look mature and elegant, maybe the dress, or the makeup, I don't know. I let her in while our daughter gave us some space and went to her room. She told me everything she has done since she left. Basically, she lived with that guy for some years. She said how much she enjoyed it, how fun it was, and how she believed those were the best years of her life. That was until she noticed that the excitement of that new relationship was fading slowly and at some point, she started to cheat on that guy too. According to her, she wanted to feel alive and excited. Eventually, that relationship ended, and she started dating other guys. Every relationship became shorter than the previous one, until she only had casual hookups. She also said that sometimes, she thought about us and our family, but she said she was too proud to admit she made a mistake, until last year. She got COVID and it hit her really hard, to the point that she believed she would die. That's when she realized how alone she was, how stupid she was, and the mistake she made so long ago. After all of that, she said she regretted everything she did and said, and now she was ready to marry me, and be the family we always meant to be. When she was done, I asked her to leave and give me some time to think. She accepted, saying she would be back the next day. For years I dreamed about her coming back, and now it was happening. But it just felt wrong. After that day, she visited almost daily, wanting to talk about the best years of our relationship, and how we could be a happy family again. I asked my family and friends for advice. Most of them said I would be making the worst mistake of my life if I took her back. Others said that I could give her a chance. It took me a lot to heal, and some more time to start making new relationships, and I would be risking everything. One night, my daughter and I had a deep conversation about all this. I always try to involve her in every part of our life, and this issue concerns her too, because she is her mother. Sometimes she surprises me by being so wise and mature, because she told me, "Can you really love someone that hurted us so much?" That was everything I needed. I would never forgive myself if I let her hurt my daughter again. Soon after I reiterated this to Lucy. If she wanted to be around, or have a relationship with our daughter, I was fine with it only if my daughter wanted it. However, I told her we would not be getting back together. Lucy only said that she would make me fall in love with her again, and that she would not give up. After that conversation she continued insisting on meeting, saying she wanted to talk. I decided to have one last talk with her and set my boundaries. We met in a public place. The talk was long and hard. I wanted her to be honest, and I told her the moment I caught a lie I was leaving. I asked if she was really sorry, or if we were her last option. Did she really love us, or are we just a consolation prize? Did she come back for love, or because she was unable to find another man anymore? She was unable to answer any of that. She only said things like, "It's not like that. You need to understand me. I'm not like this anymore." She kept insisting on giving her another chance, saying that we could love each other again and be together. However, she never mentioned our daughter in any moment of the conversation. When I pointed it out, she got defensive and tried mentioning her. When I tried to tell her that we were over, She grabbed my hand and tried to seduce me. She pulled down her blouse, showed me her cleavage, and said we could find a room, so I could do whatever I wanted with her. That she wouldn't say no to anything, to compensate me. I didn't recognize that woman. She wasn't the amazing girl I met and she wasn't the mother of my daughter. I didn't know who that woman was, but she wasn't my Lucy. I told her to let me go, that we were over. I told her that neither me or my daughter wanted anything with her. I told her to please leave us alone as we were living a good life without her. She then went mad, saying I couldn't leave her, that it wasn't my choice, that she doesn't have anything else. That I can't take away her daughter. I still don't know why, but that last sentence triggered me. I yelled at her, "Your daughter? Your daughter? You are not her mother. You only gave birth to her, but you are not her mother. Tell me, where were you when she was sick? Where were you when she had a fever? When she was scared at night? When her first teeth fell? When she cried at night because she missed her mom? Where were you on her first day of school? When she had her first boyfriend? When her heart broke for the second time? Because the first one who broke her heart was her mother. Which man were you riding when she needed a mom? You have no right to claim you are her mother, because you never acted like one." She tried to reply, but I saw how she was unable to find the words. I left her. Back at home, she sent me some texts, asking for another meeting, for another chance, that she loves me and she can change, but I'm done. She doesn't love me or our daughter at all, she only loves herself. Having her in my life would be toxic and I don't need that. I don't need her. My daughter and I are going back to therapy soon. I need to work on myself, be stronger, and get over those feelings for her. I have to understand they're not real, just a memory of what I thought she was. My wife told me someone else is her soulmate. Now I'm contemplating our marriage. My wife, Emma, met her best friend, Chuck, in high school. They became close friends and Chuck came out to Emma as gay. Emma was supportive. A year or so later Chuck came out to his parents. They disowned him and kicked him out, and Chuck ended up living with Emma and her parents for the rest of high school. Emma and I started dating after college and she told me all about Chuck and how close they were and how he was like a brother. I met Chuck and we got along and became friends. Chuck is a good guy. At the time Chuck was dating a guy and they ended up moving in together about the same time that Emma and I got engaged. Emma and I have been married for 5 years now. I'm a project manager and took on a year-long project in another city. I have to leave at 5:30 a.m. every morning and get home around 6:30 p.m. Emma and I had a long talk about my job before I took on this project. We knew it would be a sacrifice for me to be working so much, but I'm getting more money than I ever thought I would. After this project we can pay off our student debt and start trying to have a baby. We both agreed the money was worth it, since it's only a year. That year will be up in late November. In March, Chuck caught his boyfriend cheating. He was devastated. Emma immediately told him he could move in with us. I was fine with him moving in, but not happy that Emma didn't even discuss it with me first. Chuck was pretty broken up and Emma was giving him lots of love and attention. I was fine with it, because I know how much she loves Chuck and he did need her. I also did my best to support him and make him feel loved. For a while this was fine, but as time went on Emma has continued to pour all of her attention into Chuck. Sometimes I get home from work and neither of them are there, and I found out they went to a movie or out to dinner together. I don't think there is anything romantic between them, but it has been annoying that I get left out of all the plans. The past few weeks several things have happened. The three of us went to a party and someone joked about Chuck being our third wheel and Emma said, "Chuck is not the third wheel." I said, "What?" And she said, "I've known Chuck longer than I've known you." A week or so after that, Emma and Chuck went out dancing one night. I had to work the next day so I stayed home. I woke up at about 3 a.m. and Emma was not in bed. I went and found her and Chuck cuddled up on the couch asleep with the TV on. Both of those things made me uncomfortable. I also realized I had been working so much, I was just sort of letting Emma and Chuck plan everything, and I had not planned a date night in a while. I decided I needed to be more active and so I planned a date night for last Friday. When I first told Emma she was excited, as we have not been on a date just the two of us in a while. On Friday I got home at 6:30 and Emma and Chuck were not there. I took a shower and got ready. At about 7:15 I finally called Emma, as we had reservations at 8. She answered and when I asked where she was she said her and Chuck had gone shopping and were getting some dinner. I was kind of stunned and asked about our date. She laughed and said, "Oh, I forgot." Oh well. And that was that. She didn't even invite me to join them. So, a point I should make here, my dad was very controlling of my mom and had an anger problem where he would yell and throw things. He never threw things at us, but it was still scary as a kid. I have worked very hard to not be like him. I've tried to never be controlling of Emma or tell her what to do. I also tend to shut down when I get angry. When Emma forgot our date I was mad so I didn't say anything right then, but I knew I needed to address how I was feeling. So later that evening I told her we needed to talk. I had written down some things so I could stay focused. I started by saying that I loved Chuck and he was always welcome in our home, but that I felt like our marriage was suffering and we needed to work on us. Emma blew up. She thought I was attacking Chuck and she started defending him and attacking me. We have never had a big fight before and have always talked and worked things out. I was stunned that she was attacking me. She said some awful things. Then she said, "Chuck is my soulmate and you just have to get used to that." I just shut down. I didn't even know how to process that. I love Emma more than anything in the world, but in that moment I realized she loves Chuck more than she loves me. I thought Emma and I were soulmates, but to hear her say she considers someone else her soulmate has been devastating. I don't remember the rest of the talk. She huffed off after a while and slept on the couch. Her and Chuck left together on Saturday and were gone most of the day. When they got back she acted like nothing had happened. On Sunday she even made a small joke and batted her eyes at me, something she does when she's flirting with me. Normally I love it, but this time it just made me sick. I told her this was a busy week at work and I was just going to stay at a hotel near the job site, so I haven't seen her since Sunday night. I don't know what to do. I've realized I am really burned out with all of this travel. Maybe I checked out too much and haven't given her enough attention. But how do I move forward knowing she will never love me as much as I love her? What is the most heinous, unspeakable crime you have committed in public? I'm an adult in my mid-20s who has a very controversial way of punishing bratty children. I'm about 6 feet 7 inches, so even when I'm just trying to be friendly and meeting a family member's or friend's kid for the first time, I've noticed they get very hide between their mother's legs, intimidated on sight if I'm not sitting down. So it's not hard for me to silence and intimidate a child, especially when I'm trying to. However, a few times I've been called out for my methods of punishing bratty children. One time I was pretty drunk with a friend at a Target buying a game called Risk. This little 5-year-old, Mexican kid with a mohawk, was being an insufferable little jerk in the action figure section. I heard him from like 5 aisles over and it was like nails on a chalkboard. I tell my friend, I'm gonna fart on this kid's head. Watch and learn. I saunter on over to the aisle in question and see the vile little prick calling his mom an idiot for not buying him a huge freaking G.I. Joe the movie vehicle. His mom pleads with him saying, I already bought that one for you and you broke it by throwing it down the stairs. He says, shut up. I need it. It's the only one I don't have now. The mother was younger than me and in her early 20s. She gave a defeated look and said, I don't have enough money right now. He says, you are an idiot, and continues to just berate and publicly shame this woman. At the time, I was on a strict Chipotle carnitas burrito diet. And while I was watching all this, my stomach gave me an initial warning gurgle, telling me I was about an hour away from punishing the toilet. It was as if I had found my calling and purpose in the world. I inch a bit closer to my prey, inspecting some wrestling toys and pondering the weird homoeroticness of the whole sport in general. The kid shouts, screw you, I hate you. The mom rolls her eyes and turns her back to the kid to ignore him. And could you believe it, the kid gets on his hands and knees and starts taking the toy out of the box. It's go time, you piece of crap. I position my back towards him and at this point I'm like 2 feet away from him. His head is down, getting frustrated with those goddamn twisty tie things, and I go for the kill. I bend down to reach for one of the toys on the lower shelf. At this point, my butt is inches away from this kid's head. Now, generally speaking, the best way to go about this is to act casual, drop your belly bomb, then walk away after a few seconds like nothing is out of the ordinary. I usually go one all over and listen to the kid's reaction and delight. However, today I couldn't help myself. I have my head tilted back looking at this kid out of the corner of my eye, to ensure accuracy. I'm so close that from a distance it looks like I'm about to sit on him. My friend sees this happening and can no longer contain himself. He's covering his mouth, but his hee-haw hyperventilating donkey chortle is fairly audible over the late 90s pop music playing on the loudspeakers. The kid immediately looks up towards the laughter, but can't help but notice there is a butt now directly in his face. Now, I'm trying not to laugh but also panicking as I just made eye contact with him. He furrows his brow and I look over in the mother's direction, still back towards us. I relish in the moment and the look on this child's confused and naive face. The initial blast was mighty and boisterous. I swear I saw his hair blowing in the wind. If I wasn't wearing jeans, I think it could have probably blown over an empty soda can. I would call it a very fun fart. However, what immediately followed after I let it out of the chamber was truly horrifying. The fart's implication changed without notice and swiftly. It went from a joyous, dry air horn squeal to a nefarious, hissing mephitis. I think the little moppet noticed the hateful metamorphosis before even I did because he wretched his neck violently trying to get away from the personified evil being fumigated into his soul. Because of his positioning, it was all in vain as the only way out was forward and forward would mean certain death. I had positioned myself well on the higher ground, free to escape or relent at any time. However, the poor child was immobilized, biding his time until the cruel attack was over. Obviously, this child hadn't anticipated my strategic genius. In total, it lasted about 4 seconds, but for that kid, it must have seemed like time was frozen. The long-term severe brain damage which he no doubt suffered, only added to that effect. When I finished forcing the little boy to huff my farts, there was a silent, pregnant pause. The kid was clearly shocked and stunned. No one had ever stood up to this dwarf sociopath in his whole life. I had taken the words out of his mouth and filled it with fart. I make my move first, picking up the toy I was reaching for off the low shelf, take a few steps forward and stare at it for a few seconds. The only thing the kid could manage to do was burst into tears. My friend senses danger since the jig is up and his head darts for cover. The mom turns around to see her kid with an open toy, crying on the floor and me minding my own business. She walks up to him and asks what's wrong, but the kid can't speak. All he gets out is a measly fart before going back to crying. It took every fiber in my body not to laugh. I put the toy back on a middle shelf, turn around, give a final nonchalant look-see and then begin to take my exit. Sensing that his assailant was getting away scot-free, he somehow managed to compose himself for a moment. He shouts, "He farted on me." I could feel him pointing at me, but I continued to act like I was just browsing. I was almost around the corner when the mom goes, "Excuse me." I turn around unfazed. Who? Me? While pointing to myself. Yes. Did you just fart on my son? Weighing my options, I played dumb. What? I mean, I did fart. On my son? Well, I mean, technically speaking. I mean, what is on? Why did you fart on my son? At this point the little kid has a smug look on his face, happy to see me in trouble. Screw you, I'm a man. I will fart on you if I please. I turned my attention to the little kid and stare at him, because the whole store could hear him being a little, rotten brat to his mother, so I thought I'd come over here and treat him like one. The mom looks at me, her son and the scattered G.I. Joe wrappers and box on the floor. The mom is puzzled as to what to do and says, just go. That's my cue. I turn around and walk away with a little extra step. I look up to see the black orb of security cameras and all the stories online about unjustly having to register as an offender flash before my eyes. As soon as I turn the corner, I book it outside as fast as I can while dialing my friend. Like a true friend, he is right out front with the engine running in the game we had bought in the trunk. We laugh on the car ride back about the whole scene. With a slight hint of seriousness in his tone, my friend asks me, do you do that a lot? Not that much. Like once every 6 months or so. We both knew I was lying. What is the most traumatizing thing you have found your parents doing? I added my number to my mom's group chat and what I saw left me permanently disturbed. Yesterday my mom asked me to show her how to create a WhatsApp group on her phone. Her smartphone is brand new and she's new to smartphones. Her previous phone was only capable of doing the bare minimum when it came to communication and she was happy with that. Well, her old phone died recently and her plan was to go back to the early 2000s and find another bare minimum phone. I decided screw that, I'm getting you a proper phone that doesn't have an annoying cartridge game ringtone whenever it's switched on. I've been teaching my mom how to use her new phone for the past 2 weeks now. She's a slow learner, but she is making progress, which brings me back to the WhatsApp group. I talked her through the process and even showed her how to add someone to the group. I suggested that she add my contact just to demonstrate how simple it was. As soon as she added me to the group, I said, well done mom, put my headphones back on, and continued my online gaming session. I must have played for over an hour without checking my phone. When I finally put my controller down, I noticed that I had 28 messages. All in my mom's group. At that moment I realized I never exited my mom's group or showed her how to unadd me. I thought it would be funny to send a message in the group and inform my mom that I forgot to show her how to remove me. I never sent that message. I was too traumatized. It became clear to me that the purpose of the group was for my mom and her friends to share cake ideas. Specific cake ideas. Based on the messages I saw, my mom wanted a cake for my dad's upcoming birthday that looked exactly like her kitty. Not only that, she wanted the cake to be edible and somehow screwable as well. Like she literally wanted a real schlong to at least be able to penetrate the cake without destroying it. One of my mom's friends said that she knew someone who specialized in erotic cakes. Then she asked my mom if she was willing to send that person a picture of her kitty since my mom didn't want a random kitty cake. Before my mom could respond, another friend decided to share an old photo of my young mom and a few other young people who were about to go skinny dipping. Everyone in the photo was fully undressed. My mom was spreading her cheeks and mooning the photographer. The person who sent the photo said, I hope you learned to shave over the years before you send that photo. This was like the first 6 or 7 messages in the group. There was a lot more to read, but I had seen too much, so I exited the group as quietly as possible. I have no idea how no one noticed I was there and I don't know if they noticed me leave. My mom isn't acting weird around me, even though I'm being weird as hell. I want to believe that I might be in the clear. That being said, I now know what my mom's kitty looked like when she was my age, and I now have nightmares of my soon-to-be 60-year-old dad screwing a kitty cake. What initially harmless, small lie quickly spiraled out of control. My girlfriend and I used to buy milk at the 7-Eleven across the street from our apartment, because for whatever reason their gallons of 1% were always $1 cheaper than the grocery store. Reza, the young Middle Eastern guy who managed the store, got to know us fairly well. We would always greet each other and occasionally if he saw their stocks of 1% gallons running low, he would store one in the back for us because he knew we would always come in at like 2 p.m. every Sunday for milk. Really nice guy. The week before we took a vacation, the girlfriend was studying her butt off for her exam, so I did the grocery shopping alone. Because we were leaving midweek for our trip, I only bought a half gallon of milk. Of course Reza assumes the worst. He assumes that we've broken up. He asked where she was and I just kind of grumbled. I was ready to launch into explaining how her test was tomorrow and whatnot, but before I could he just launched into this whole big apology saying sorry and that he didn't realize and hoped I was managing well. He went on to say how he just got divorced and how he misses her every day. I just didn't have the heart to tell him that she was just busy today, and that we were leaving for the week so I just went with it. I lied and told him how hard it's been being alone after so long and told him we'd get through it together. I didn't want my girlfriend to think I was an idiot, so I neglected to tell her when I got home. 2 weeks later and coincidentally my girlfriend is busy working a weekend shift to make up for our week off. So, I go back in, grab a gallon of 1%, and quickly realize that looks bad. So I turned around, put the gallon back, and grabbed the half gallon. The whole time Reza is watching me, dejectedly. He starts telling me it gets better, hang in there, we can grab coffee if I want to talk. I wanted to politely decline but he went on again about his divorce and started tearing up. Once again, I felt bad and we agreed to meet for coffee after his shift. Coffee sounds great actually, I told him. I could tell he needed someone to talk to. At this point I realized this lie was going to spiral out of control real fast. After his shift, I met him at the 7-Eleven and walked down the block to a small coffee shop on the corner. Order whatever you'd like, it's on me today, I offered. Reza thanked me and went up to the counter. He came back with a steaming cup of chai tea and I had a vanilla latte. We settled into the chairs by the window and I asked him, so, how have you been holding up? I asked gently, feeling like an absolute scumbag the entire time. Reza sighed, wrapping his hands around his mug. Some days are tough, he admitted. I never saw the divorce coming. After 10 years together, she just suddenly decided we had irreconcilable differences. He shook his head. I'm still trying to process it all. The nights alone are the hardest. I listened intently as Reza talked more about his relationship struggles and the pain of the divorce. I offered empathy and encouragement where I could and nodded in agreement as if I could relate. He started to ask me to talk about my girlfriend and I just looked down at my feet. I told him I couldn't bring myself to talk about it yet as the wounds were still fresh but was willing to keep hearing him out. He seemed grateful to have someone to confide in over the next hour. As we got up to leave, he clasped my shoulder warmly. Thank you for this. I appreciate you taking the time to listen. I told him sincerely that I was always here if he needed to talk more. We parted ways outside the cafe, both of us feeling a little less alone. Then I went home to my girlfriend. When she asked why I didn't get a full gallon, I think I told her that they were out of gallons and Reza didn't save us one this week. In the ensuing weeks, I proceeded to make all efforts to buy milk when my girlfriend wasn't around. She still didn't know. However, I decided to start working out, so I was able to justify to Reza the purchase of a gallon of 1%. We would normally chat for a few minutes and we would ask each other how things were. We would both give vague answers and wish each other well and be on our way. Eventually, one day my girlfriend went to 7-Eleven on her own when I wasn't around. I guess Reza helped her, made small talk, but was definitely weird towards her. She texted me about it and at this point I knew the gig jig was up and I had to come clean. When I got home I explained everything to her. She laughs, calls me an idiot, but at the same time thought it was cute for me to keep up the facade and commiserate with Reza, who was clearly dealing with some of his own issues. She decided that we needed to stage a reunion. So the following Sunday, we waltzed in, arm in arm, looking cheery. We could feel his eyes following us around the room. I made eye contact with him once or twice. I could tell he was trying desperately and failing to hold back the biggest knowing grin I've ever seen. Finally we go to check out and he starts wringing his hands and finally bursts out about he was rooting for us and how happy he was that we worked it out. The look of excitement and happiness on Reza's face was probably one of the most uplifting moments I've ever had. He told us repeatedly how we give him hope and how not the whole world is evil. Glad we could help you, Reza. Sorry I lied about the milk.